I wasn't supposed to be inside. The whole family was still out on the porch, finishing drinks under the patio heater. But I'd left my phone in the kitchen, and messages were already buzzing through my watch. It should have taken 30 seconds. But she was there, and we looked at each other like no one else existed. The kitchen lights were off, except for the glow from the open fridge. Pale blue light spilled across the floor, catching the glint of a half-empty wine glass by the sink. And her, my aunt. At least that's what everyone called her. She wasn't really my aunt, just my dad's new wife's older sister. No blood, no relation. But in this family, labels stick. And hers stuck harder than most. She was barefoot on the tile, standing at the counter, still in that soft black dress from dinner. One strap sliding off her shoulder, her dark hair loosely tied. She didn't turn when I stepped inside. She just said, "They're still asking about you." I walked in slowly. "I left my phone." "I know." Then she turned to look at me. Her eyes weren't warm. They weren't cold either. Just focused. Heavy. She wasn't blinking. The room felt too still. Maybe it was the smell of lemon soap and wine. Or maybe it was the way she was looking at me. I grabbed my phone from beside the fridge and checked the screen. 3 missed messages from my dad, and 1 from Anna, my not-quite ex. I locked it again. When I looked up, she was still watching. "You know," she said, "I saw the way you looked at me during dinner." I hesitated. "What way?" She smiled. Slow, like she already knew I was lying. "I've been looked at like that before," she said, turning back to the counter. "Just not in this house." I didn't move. I didn't know if I even could. Something about her voice made everything else fall away. She picked up her wine glass, took a sip, then said, "It doesn't leave this room." That's when it shifted. "Whatever happens here," she added, "no one hears about it. Not your father. Not my sister. Not anyone." Footsteps creaked from the back deck. Laughter. Shadows moved on the wall behind her. Someone walking past the glass doors. She turned back to me, slower this time. "You shouldn't stay," she said, but she didn't mean it. "Unless you're really planning to." The shadows passed. The house was quiet again. She stepped closer. I could smell her now, vanilla, wine, and something warmer. She lifted one hand and let it rest lightly on my shirt collar. Then she licked her lips. Slow, like punctuation. I didn't breathe. She leaned in, just close enough to whisper. "So," she said, "are you gonna do it or not?" And just then, the sliding door behind us opened. Light poured into the kitchen. My dad's voice cut through it all. "You coming back out or what?" Pulled away. She stepped back without flinching, placing her wine glass back down. Calm, like nothing had happened. "Yeah," I called out, clearing my throat, just charging my phone. I walked outside, still dizzy, but I couldn't leave it there. 10 minutes later, when the porch lights were off and the house had gone quiet again, I slipped back inside. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. Everyone had either left or gone to bed. Plates stacked in the sink, half-burnt candles still flickering in the dining room, and a faint trail of music humming from someone's forgotten speaker upstairs. I waited. 15 minutes, maybe 20, and then I slipped out of my room and went downstairs. The hallway light buzzed. I turned it off. When I opened the laundry room door, I expected cold tile, detergent, and silence. But she was already there. She didn't flinch when I entered. She was crouched by the dryer, barefoot again, folding a pile of towels. Her hair was down now, loose over one shoulder, and she wore an oversized gray t-shirt that reached just past her thighs. Nothing else. She didn't look surprised. "I couldn't sleep," she said, not looking at me. "Thought I'd finished the laundry. I was just..." I started, but didn't finish. The air between us had changed. Again. She stood slowly, holding a white towel in her hands. "This one's yours," she said, tossing it to me. "You left it in the downstairs bathroom." Caught it. The scent hit me before the fabric did. Something soft and expensive, like almond and clean linen. Her eyes flicked to the towel in my hands. "It's still warm," she said. Then quieter, "So are you." The silence after that was too long. I didn't move. Neither did she. Then she reached into the basket and pulled out something else. A scarf. Bright red. She held it between two fingers. "Funny," she said. "I haven't worn this in years." I watched as she turned it over in her hands, like it meant more than fabric ever should. Then she placed it on the dryer behind her and looked at me. Our eyes locked. "Close the door," she said. I did. The washer hummed behind us, a low, steady rhythm. The overhead light flickered once, then steadied. Outside the small window, darkness pressed against the glass. She moved closer. "You're not backing out now, are you?" she asked. I shook my head barely. She stepped in again, slow and quiet, like she was waiting for something, or daring me. "I don't care what they call me," she said. "I know what you see when you look at me." I swallowed hard. My fingers still gripped the towel, like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. She reached up, brushing my arm lightly. The contact was nothing, but everything. And then came the sound. Footsteps. Above us. Someone walking down the upstairs hallway. Boards creaked. Muffled voices. A door opened. We both froze. She stepped back, fast but silent, and turned toward the dryer, pretending to sort something. I moved to the wall and leaned against it like I belonged there. A phone buzzed. It wasn't mine. She glanced at the screen near the laundry sink. Her phone, face down, but the vibration echoed across the counter. Again and again. She picked it up, hesitated, then put it back face down without answering. I caught the name on the screen before it faded. Gavin. A pause. Then she turned to me. Her voice was lower now, less teasing. "You need to go." I hesitated. "Go," she said again, but her hand caught my wrist as I turned. She didn't say anything else. She just held it, then let go. As I opened the door to leave, she said one more thing. "Tomorrow," she whispered. "Garage. Midnight." I turned, but she was already folding towels again. And on top of the dryer, the red scarf was still there. The clock on my nightstand glowed 11:58. Everyone else was asleep. At least that's what I told myself. I pulled on a hoodie, grabbed the flashlight from my drawer, and crept down the stairs without a sound. The back door creaked louder than I wanted it to. I winced, waited. No movement from the hallway. The garage was attached to the far side of the house, a separate entrance. We never used it, but tonight that was the point. The air inside was cold, metallic, smelled like oil and cardboard. A single bulb above the workbench buzzed, casting long shadows across stacked boxes and garden tools. The red scarf was hanging on a hook beside the door. Waiting. She was already there, leaning against the car, arms folded. Dark jeans, loose gray sweater. No shoes again. "I thought you wouldn't come," she said. "You told me not to back out." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes this time. There was something heavier in her face now, tighter. Her arms stayed crossed. I walked in slowly, shutting the door behind me. The bulb above us hummed louder. She watched me take another step, and another. "Is this stupid?" I asked quietly. "Of course it is," she said. "That's why it matters." We were standing 2 feet apart. She looked down for a second, then back up. "Did you tell anyone?" "No." "Good." Her voice was barely above a whisper now. Because they wouldn't understand. They never do. I didn't ask who she meant. She turned, picked up something off the car hood, a small keychain flashlight, and clicked it once, then tossed it to me. Just in case the light goes out, she said. But I didn't catch it, because that's when headlights flashed across the garage window. We both froze. A car was pulling into the driveway, too slow to be a passerby, too quiet to be a delivery. She ducked behind the shelves without thinking. I followed, staying low. We crouched in the dark, backs pressed against cool metal. The car idled outside. Then a voice, muffled male, called out from the porch. "Hallie? You home?" She mouthed a curse. The man knocked. "Hallie, I see your car. You left your lights on." I looked at her. She closed her eyes, breathing through her nose. He knocked again, harder this time, then silence. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Once, twice. I checked it, Dad. 3 missed calls. She saw the screen, and her expression sharpened. She whispered, "Go out the side door. Now. I'm not leaving you here. It's fine. He won't wait." "Who is that?" She didn't answer. She just shook her head once. "Doesn't matter." Another buzz. Dad again. I silenced it. She reached up and touched my chest, fingers curling in the fabric of my hoodie. "You don't owe anyone anything. Not even him." The sound of footsteps faded. The engine started. Tires rolled slowly away down the drive. We waited another full minute. When she finally exhaled, it sounded like she hadn't breathed in hours. I stood up. She stayed sitting on the garage floor, back against the shelf, hair falling in her face. "You didn't leave," she said. "No." She looked at me, and for the first time she didn't smile. She didn't flirt. She just said, "That's gonna cost you." I didn't move. I didn't need to. Then she reached behind her neck, pulled her hair into a knot, and tied it. Not with a hair tie, but with the red scarf from the wall. Tight, casual, like it belonged there. It didn't feel like a secret anymore. Felt like a signal. She stood, walked to the bench, and picked up a small object, pressed it into my palm. "A key. To my studio," she said. "Downtown. Door by the alley. Tuesday, 8 p.m. I looked at the key. Plain, cold, unmarked. When I looked up again, she was already unlocking the garage door, eyes on the driveway. "You should go," she whispered, "before your dad gets curious." So I left, but I didn't drop the key. Tuesday came slower than I thought it would. All day I walked around campus with the key in my pocket. I checked the time every hour. I didn't answer texts. I skipped my shift at the bookstore. When my dad called to remind me about dinner with his in-laws, I told him I was staying late at the library. He didn't ask twice. By 7:45, I was in the city. I kept the hood of my jacket up, even though the air was warm. Her studio was in a narrow red brick building tucked behind a row of cafes and hair salons. I found the alley she'd mentioned, damp, quiet, and dimly lit by a single yellow bulb over the back door. The key turned easily. Inside, it smelled like coffee and paint. A soft jazz record played somewhere in the background. Canvases leaned against the walls, some finished, others still raw and unfinished. The windows were covered with linen drapes, letting in no outside light. She was at the far end of the room, facing a canvas. Long shirt, no shoes, hair tied up, the red scarf wrapped around her wrist like a bracelet. "You came," she said without turning. "I had to." "No, you didn't." She set her brush down, wiped her hands, and finally turned. Her face looked tired. Not in a bad way, just real. I stepped closer. She didn't move away. There was tension still, but not like before. Not sharp. Felt suspended. Was that your husband the other night? I asked. She looked at me for a long time. Soon to be ex. Does he know? Not yet. She hesitated. But he suspects. He always suspects something. I waited. She walked to the kitchenette, poured herself a glass of water, then poured a second, held it out to me. I didn't think you'd actually come, she said. Why? Because it's easier to want something than to do something about it. I took the glass. Our fingers touched. Briefly. I used to live here full-time, she said. Before they bought the house. Before I got talked into helping raise someone else's teenagers. Before I started smiling when I didn't want to. You don't smile with me, I said. She looked up. Exactly. We sat down across from each other at the small table near the window. She pulled the scarf off her wrist and folded it, placing it carefully in the center of the table like a flag between us. I'm tired of pretending, she said. You make it harder to keep pretending. Outside, a car passed. Headlights flickered against the blinds. We both turned toward the sound. Do they know you're here? She asked. I shook my head. I turned off my phone. What if someone needs you? They'll wait. You really don't care? Do you? No, I said. I care. That's why I'm here. Something shifted in her expression, like she didn't know what to do with the answer. I was married young, she said. He was my safety. My parents loved him. He had good credit and smiled on command. She paused. And then he stopped smiling, especially at me. I didn't speak. She wasn't done. There's something about being looked at, she said. Not just glanced at. Seen. And when it disappears, it feels like you do too. You're not invisible. She smiled. This one was different. Sad. Real. No. Not here. Not with you. She stood, slowly, walked to the curtain, pulled it back a little, just enough to see the street below. And then she froze. Shit, she whispered. I stood. What? She pulled the curtain closed fast. There was someone down there, on the sidewalk. Do you know them? I'm not sure, she said. But they were looking up, at this window. We stood there, frozen for a moment. The soft jazz on the record suddenly felt louder. Too loud. Maybe it was nothing, I said. Maybe, she replied, but didn't sound convinced. She stepped away from the window and walked to the shelf, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small envelope, unmarked. She handed it to me. Don't open it now, she said. Open it if you still want this. Thursday night. Same time. Same place. Even if someone saw? She looked at me without blinking. Especially then. The scarf was still folded on the table between us. She didn't touch it again. And I didn't ask what was in the envelope. I just put it in my jacket pocket and walked out into the night. Thursday came with a storm. The city was soaked by afternoon, and by evening the streets reflected everything. Headlights, crosswalks, stoplights pulsing red into the puddles. I held the envelope she gave me like it was burning through my jacket. I didn't open it until I reached the alley. It wasn't a letter, just a single keycard and a sticky note. Don't knock, just come in. I used the card on the side entrance. Her studio was dark except for a single lamp near the center, warm light spilling over a large canvas covered by a cloth. She was standing beside it in silence. No music this time, no wine, no red scarf. She looked different, not dressed up, not posing, real. You opened it, she said. I did. And you still came. I nodded. I said I would. A pause. Then soft. Close the door. I did. She walked over, stopped in front of me. Her eyes weren't asking anymore. She reached for my hand, slow and deliberate, and placed it on her waist. She held it there with both of hers. And then she kissed me. No hesitation. No teasing. Just the answer we'd been circling for too long. It didn't last long. But it didn't have to. When she pulled away, she didn't say anything. She just rested her forehead against mine and closed her eyes. Outside, thunder rolled low across the city. I exhaled. My hands were still on her. Hers didn't move. "This doesn't go past us," I said. "No," she whispered. "It doesn't." We stood like that for a long time, not speaking, not rushing, letting the storm do the talking. And then she stepped back. There was something calm in her now, like she'd finally made peace with something. "I'm leaving," she said. "Next week." My stomach dropped. "Leaving where?" "Out of state. Just for a while. I need distance. I need quiet." "And this?" I asked. She looked at me, full and steady. "You were the only thing that made me feel real again. But I don't want you waiting for something that's only half alive." I swallowed hard, nodded. "You'll disappear?" "No," she said. "I'll write." She walked to the covered canvas, glanced at it once, then left it veiled. "You don't want to show me?" "Not yet," she said. "It's not finished." Before I could respond, her phone buzzed from the table. She checked the screen. Her expression didn't change. "My sister," she said. "She's asking where I am. She suspects." "Probably." Silence. "Are you scared?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, not anymore." I walked toward the door. She followed. Right before I stepped out, she said, "Come by one last time. Sunday. Late. I'll leave something for you." She didn't say what. She didn't have to. 1 week later, I came back. I didn't text. Didn't knock. Just used the keycard again. The studio was empty. Dustier. The canvas was gone. But on the table, a small, flat package wrapped in brown paper and tied with a red string. Inside, a sketch. Charcoal on textured paper. It was me. But not just me, it was how she saw me. Watching her. The look I didn't know I was giving that first night in the kitchen. At the bottom, in pencil, "Now you know what I saw." I stood in the middle of the room holding it. The lamp still worked. Same glow. Same soft buzz. And beside the table, where she always kept it, hung the red scarf, still tied, in a perfect knot.